What is poppin', squad? It's your boy Jesimein, and today we're talking about this upcoming striker nerf. I know this is like the biggest thing in Division right now, being that striker is the only thing you see in the DZ across all platforms, right? So I've been playing all three platforms, and that's literally all you see. There is no difference. If it's Division, there's going to be a striker there. Now, for the most part, a lot of people are excited, right? Everybody says it's about time. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's the showstopper thing. The whole Cronus thing, the whole lack of diversity period is annoying people. You can see right here, just strikers everywhere, including me. But I mean, honestly, to be realistic, right now, any other build is pretty much like it's death trap. Honestly, yes, a lot of builds do work here and there. Yeah, you can go manhunt. I'm not saying that it's 100% gone, but I'm saying for the most part, there's an obvious reason why everybody and their mama is running striker, and that's why attention has been brought to it. And just like I told you guys, the moment they had nerfed Pred and Nomad, it was inevitable that striker was going to be nerfed, especially because it was already that good. Now, we're going to talk about honestly what can they possibly do to make it fair without breaking striker. Now, honestly, my opinion is, overall, like, honestly, this is my own thought process. I mean, take it how you want it. I honestly never expected them to give striker a heal in the first place, and that's because obviously it has the best damage in the game. Why would you give something that heal? But obviously they had their reasons and they had their justifications, and I'm not going to question that. But that's one of the big things about striker that people are frustrated with, is the fact that you have to worry about so much damage on top of a heal. And not necessarily with the 6K version, but more so with the 9K version. Being that it's such a good balance, you're already incredibly tanky, and you get your health back in chunks while doing 100% damage. That combo is just unreal in regular fights against any other build, and that's why people are starting, throw up their swords towards it. And then when you add in the whole showstopper brokenness, it's like throwing salt in the wound, right? You have a showstopper that already does a crazy amount of damage when it gets stacks, but on top of that, it gets like 100 stacks in like 5 shots. And the fact that people are adding Cronus on top of that, it's just a trifecta of doom, and it just ruins the gameplay experience. Now, on PlayStation 4, lately, since I have, like, and I'm not gonna say converted, I honestly went to visit and have my presence on their servers. They deal with it the worst out of all the platforms, and you can really see how big of an impact it does on the game. It's like everybody plays, builds their build, and has a thought process around, how do I deal with a showstopper Cronus? How do I deal with the striker that gets instant stacks and they can just chicken dance while they get their heal back in chunks? And honestly, if they're facing me with a showstopper, that's it. And then that's why the developers finally, said, okay, this has to change. People are abusing this to the point of no return, and something like pretty much has to be done at this point. My true opinion on it is, once they change this is going to be probably the biggest nerf we've seen in I don't know how long. And it's not just because of whatever they decide to do, but just because everybody's using it. So when this changes, it's going to spread everybody out into different areas, right? Everybody's going to decide what's the next best thing that they're going to use and whatever. If they somehow make it where a lot of other builds are viable, somehow, some way, we can have, true diversity. But let's get to what they should do for striker. So in my opinion, it's simple. Like, the problems with striker are, to me, as of right now, it's showstopper and the heal. I don't see any other problem with how the build works. I don't see any other issues, or not even just how showstopper. Shotguns, period. I feel shotgun should not work for striker at all. Anyways, it should be an AR and sub build. Just how Lone Star is a shotgun and LMG build, they should have their own too. It shouldn't be all three. So that's just baseline. That's not even a fix or a nerf. I feel like that should just be by default. So what is the reasonable nerfs, right? Okay, so honestly, in my opinion, a good nerf would be cutting the stacks to 50 to start. Like, let's say they somehow can't tweak the variables of how the heal works or whatever. I think 50 stack is enough to compete with every other build, right? You're still gonna be able to any hexel, but you're not gonna get out damaged and all that. And the build itself isn't necessarily ruined. You don't want to do too much to the build because it's going to ruin, I mean, we have perfect examples of what happens to builds when they get hit too hard. And a lot of people do not want striker to go, because a lot of the remaining community really enjoy striker, really play with striker up until now. And I think annihilating it would be really, really bad for the game. So 50 stack cut, if they had to, would be a good one. Another good one is removing all forms of shotgun stacks, period. I don't think that any shotgun should give. I don't know how they would do that, obviously, because some people do like shotguns. But for striker, I feel like you should get your stacks with your AR and then switch to your shotgun. Like that should be the way it should work. All stacks removed from shotguns, and that alone will change it. It won't completely fix the meta. It will still be a striker meta, but if they couldn't do nothing else, that would be another reasonable. Another really good one that I think that this is like out of my creativity. I think that it should get to 100 stacks, and as soon as you shoot again, it resets. I know people are like, well, then I can't really keep 100 stacks. You're right. You shouldn't be able to. You should be able to enjoy the journey up to 100 stacks. Because a lot of people stay in between 80 and 70 and 80. So that's fine. You're always going to stay within that. But if you hit 100 stacks, it resets. So it kind of has like a rotating thing. You know what I'm saying? So you're not too much like camped up on 100 and pretty much immortal. Like if you miss your shot, you go down to 0. If you get to maximum, you go down. You know what I'm saying? Just so like people can't overly burst. And I think that'll be a really good cycle change. Yes, it will still pretty much be the same because most people sit at 80, which I would say then cut it down to 75 at that point. But I mean, pretty much the focus is not to kill the build. You have to just kind of tailor it down here and there until you find a nice little medium spot. But that is a solid fix that I think. Another really good fix is make the EMPs work how they're supposed to, right? Because as of right now, if you use an EMP, people see you as trying to glitch them. It's kind of like a bad stigma on top of that, because if right now that running in place glitch is causing a lot of people a lot of harm and it's super cheesy. So right now if you put on EMP, people are looking at you as like, oh, only reason you're running EMP is because you're gonna make us run in place. But in reality, that's the only reasonable counter to stopping a striker's rampage when they're at high stacks. So EMP should remove stacks completely so that striker actually has a counter like Predator's Mark. People are going to say, well, that's broken and that's the point of running the build. You can say the same thing for Immune Station with Pred. There is one skill that completely kills or counters a build, and that would be Immune Station for Pred, and that would be EMP for Striker. And I think that would be realistic since Striker is used way more than Pred now. I think that it will be a happy medium, something that people can look forward to. And obviously I still think that the shotgun thing should be removed, period. That should be a part of all the nerfs, so let me put that ahead of time. The Striker stacks with shotgun should be removed with any fix I've mentioned. I don't care how crazy it sounds. Shotguns are stupid with Striker. End of story. I don't want to get into that because it's irritating, especially because I experienced it on PlayStation. Now I feel your guys' pain. But I think those would be the most solid fixes for Striker, and I think that will kind of bring back the feel of, okay, now we don't have one ultra dominant build that's kind of locking PvP in place. Now, what would they do to ruin the set? Now, this definitely needs to be talked about because I think a lot of people are kind of worried that, man, like anytime we hear nerf and we hear a gear set, it kind of spells something bad. So honestly, what would ruin the gear set? Now, I think taking healing completely away would ruin the gear set only because it's what people are used to. It's their sustainability in their head. I think removing it 100% would ruin the build. It will still be a really good build. It will still hit. Obviously, you'll still be able to beam, but I feel if you take the stacks away, if you take the stack heals away, I think that it'll cause a lot of Striker people to revolt, and I don't think that that's actually smart. Maybe toning it down, reasonable, but taking it away completely would be insane. So that's one thing you definitely don't want to do. I think they're obviously not going to do that. They designed the build how it is for a reason, and I think that's that. But let's make sure that we know if healing was to be removed, it will completely ruin the gear set, especially against other things. Like against a Pred, you will have issues immediately, even if you have your Immune Station. Against a Nomad, you have issues immediately. You see what I'm saying? So there's a lot of things you would have to worry about. Now, another thing that they can potentially ruin is if they somehow lower the stacks too much, because I do think their fix has something to do with the amount of stacks or the amount of healing you get from it. I think lowering the damage would potentially ruin it for people, only because the rest of the things are more PvE related, besides stability and stuff. But I think if you take away too much damage, it'll potentially kill the build, because the build's supposed to be the hard hitter build. It's supposed to be the I stack and I destroy, the burst build. If you take too much of that away, you're gonna be giving power back to Pred, and I think that that's gonna kill the gear set. And then even DPS Nomads, like they're super deadly against Strikers, especially because of face tank. And if you don't have that heal on top or that damage on top, that will potentially ruin the gear set. And last but not least, honestly, the last thing that I think they can do to potentially ruin the gear set is change how the stacks operate. If you take off that 6-piece right now, you guys already know how hard it is to keep stacks up. That feeling should not be with the 6-piece in any way, shape, or form. I feel like that makes the gear set frustrating. It's way too hard to keep up stacks. I don't think that they should do that. Pretty sure they won't, but that'll be like a deal breaker for me as far as thinking the set would be good at that point. So let me know what you guys think below. That's my opinions on what they should do and what would break the build. Let me know if you guys agree. Let me know what you guys think they should do to Striker. Honestly, type in the comments and let me know what would be the perfect Striker nerf that will make everybody happy. That won't break the game, that won't ruin the gear set, that'll be reasonable, that you're like, okay, I understand why they did this. Let me know. I'm kind of curious because when this nerf comes, it's going to change the entire game, and this is something we need to be looking forward to and kind of mentally preparing ourselves with. So, and let me know if you're going to use it regardless of the nerf. You know what I'm saying? If it's your favorite build, let me know if you're going to sport it anyway. So it's been real. Hope you guys enjoy, and rest in peace to Cronus, Showstopper, Strikers. You guys will be mad, and you probably will uninstall the game when this nerf comes out. So GG's, it's been real. Your boy is out.